This is Beyond a Reasonable Doubt with your hosts, Mark Garrigus and Gary Smith.
Welcome, Sunday at the altar of BARD with Gary, who has already been out and about, as have I, but I at least had a 3-hour head start. How are you today, Mr. Smith?
I'm great. I'm enjoying the California weather. You're out on the East Coast, and I'm over here complaining about 64 degrees.
Right. Well, it's about the same here, and it's brisk, and it's sunny today, so it's wonderful. I have a question, Gary. What are you wearing on you? Is that the bird for going free?
Yeah. I mean, you know, I've had this Twitter shirt for a while. We had a fan of the Adam Carolla show come through about 8-9 years ago, and he brought some swag, and, you know, I figured today was as good a day as any. I'm not going to wear an LA Chargers shirt, that's for sure.
Well, we, as for those who don't know or are living under a rock, Elon took over carrying in the kitchen sink, and the legal battle, at least at this stage, is over. I believe two of the top executives and I think the general counsel got let go. Is that my understanding? General counsel being the in-house lawyer for Twitter.
By my account, it was 4. There was the CEO, the CFO, the head of, I believe her name is... I can't remember her name, but she was the head of like the standards and practices, and then the general counsel as well. So yeah, they've got a few going out, and I was just reading an article before we started that apparently a lot of Twitter employees have it in their contract that November 1st they get stock grants. So there's apparently a lot more coming.
Well, it'll be interesting to see what he does. You know, his if history is any prologue. The history at Tesla and general counsel is don't buy a house because you're not going to last long.
Sure.
He's that revolving door over at Tesla with general counsel, and apparently is a that's not a job where that you measure in years, but in months.
Yeah, no, I'm any listener of Reasonable Doubt will know I'm an unabashed fan of Elon, but I'm not sure I would want to work for him. He seems to be dynamic in all things he does.
Yeah, probably very little patience with lawyers as well, I'm sure. The story that has been getting a lot of traction this week, as I think you know, is the attack in his home of Paul Pelosi. It's been kind of a, I guess for lack of a better term, kind of a Rorschach test for a lot of people. I mean, the first thing that came about, or the report was, and it looks like based on the reporting that's out there, is that he was at home. Nancy Pelosi, his wife, was on the East Coast, that somebody broke into the house, that he was able to go in, and while the phone was charging in the bathroom, was able to make a call without alerting the cops by screaming, "I've got an invader." The story that's being reported is he said that he's got a friend here, and that that he needed some attention. The police showed up within 2 minutes. Tells you that somebody was getting some attention, if you will. And apparently when the police arrived is when there was a grappling for a hammer, and he suffered injuries that caused him skull fracture and apparently emergency surgery. And if you believe what his wife is saying, he's making a recovery, and the prognosis is good. Although anytime you're 82 and you get hit over the head with a hammer, that's a serious offense. The reason we bring it up, and because I've had so many of these cases that I could name, there's been rampant speculation and just kind of smears. And I call it a Rorschach test because it's interesting. And there, Brett, who does a lot of our research, had pointed us to an article that I had just read, a Substack. Do you have it there, Gary? Give the author credit.
Yeah, absolutely. I can put it up right now. It's from Michael Schellenberger, who wrote the book San Francisco. He's a very good journalist, in my opinion. But he definitely did a deep dive here, and I agree with you. You know, it was the Rorschach test is a good way to describe it, because as this came out, it seemed pretty straightforward, and then a few hours went by and then it wasn't, and then a few hours went by and then it wasn't even more, and it's just been a bit of a roller coaster.
Yeah, and I think it was in this article by Schellenberger. He said this guy is more Hinckley than John Wilkes Booth, and I think that's clearly the case. You know, which happens quite a bit with the with school shooters as well, and kind of sometimes these inexplicable things. There is, and you know, we have it at the office where I get with great frequency people who appear to be unhinged. You know, when people delve or start to kind of swirl the drain mentally and get into that psychosis, they pick and choose without explanation kind of ideations and these ideas of the conspiracy theories and things like that. Those who are trying to make this into a kind of a MAGA fueled rhetoric driven, I think are off that end as much as those who would also say this guy is a lefty, which he is, ex-nudist who is a product of the policies of the left. I think probably the better or more sane analysis here is that this is somebody who clearly has mental illness fueled by medication, which is, you know, drug addiction. And it's a story often told. Drew could talk about this for hours, and I've talked to Drew about this for hours, that you can't to try to find meaning or political import over somebody who's in the throes of a psychotic episode, I think is almost as psychotic as the person you're trying to analyze.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And, you know, to your point about people picking and choosing, it harkens back to my childhood of the so-called grocery store Catholic who likes to pick and choose the things that they want to ascribe to a particular outcome. And just, you know, you brought up Drew, just to tease it for the listeners, not this coming week, but the next week, you will be guest hosting for Adam Carolla on the Adam Carolla and Dr. Drew show. So you guys will have 3 full episodes that week to dive deep into this. And I'm sure, you know, unless something giant happens in the next few days, that is something we will be covering.
You never know. I always, my 96-hour rule, just keep your head down for 96 hours. Something else is going to come along that's going to knock this off the front page. One of the things that if this hadn't happened that we probably would have led the show with was John Eastman, who is, they call him Dr. Eastman in the order, who was a lawyer, local lawyer, did a motion on, I believe it was on Friday, he submitted a motion for reconsideration. He was the gentleman who the January 6th committee had subpoenaed along with his emails. Judge Carter down in Orange County did, I thought, a magnificent job of parsing through hundreds, if not more, of emails, found 10 of them that appeared to be crime fraud. One of the things that I thought was interesting in this judge, and so he was ordered, I believe, on the 28th to turn those over. He was asking for a stay while it goes to the Ninth Circuit. The judge did a very nice analysis of the 4 factors as to whether or not you could get a stay. The one I might have argued more forcefully if I were representing Eastman, or actually the 2, would have been the irreparable harm and the prima facie showing. And it was interesting. Gary, I sent you the particular language that Judge Carter had cited where there was, on the motion for reconsideration on turning over these emails, Judge Carter specifically,
Dr. Eastman does not challenge the court finding of a prima facie case of crime fraud, which can be made, quote, either by examining privileged material in camera or by examining independent non-privileged evidence. Nor does Dr. Eastman challenge the preponderance of evidence standard in which the court applied in finding 8 emails were sufficiently related to in furtherance of a crime or a fraud.
Right, and I'm with Judge Carter on this because I think I would have, if I were Eastman, I would have challenged on both. I would have challenged on the finding of the crime fraud exception and the finding that preponderance was the appropriate standard. I think there's a compelling argument that preponderance is not the standard when you're finding a crime fraud exception, especially in this kind of a situation. There was another footnote as well, Gary. I didn't send this to you, but if you pull that up, the other footnote was interesting because Judge Carter basically said to Eastman, at the bottom of the page here in the footnote, that if you want to give context to this, and what Eastman was suggesting is that Judge Carter needed to get better context, if you will, of what the advice was. And Judge Carter's response was, well, look, I've already looked at in camera all of the emails you're pointing me to. I understood the context. And if you want to make a public showing of that, then basically go get a waiver from your client. He didn't say that, but that's the import of it. Go get a waiver from Trump, and then you can show the context and waive the privilege on the others to show that you were trying to put forth a cogent legal theory here in terms of what you were doing. I think another reason for the lack of a stay is that much of this may become moot. I've mentioned before, in the context of Bannon and in the context of others regarding January 6th, Peter Navarro most notably. But in the case of Eastman, this subpoena and that committee come November 9th could end up being a markedly different situation. If the House goes into control of the Republicans, a lot of this becomes for naught and gets mooted out. And I think that's exactly where you're headed in this.
Yeah, I mean, we're only 9 days away, so it's certainly something we've got to watch. I think a lot of the stories we've been covering are going to have a decidedly different slant in a few, just less than 2 weeks here.
Yeah, there was another hot mic moment I saw over the weekend, which was released, was Chuck Schumer talking to Biden, and he was talking about the Fetterman and Oz debate, because if you haven't been living under a rock, Fetterman did not fare well, and there's a lot of people have said it's because of the stroke and his recovery, although he seems to, having gone through the not one but 2 strokes with my father, Fetterman's recovery seems remarkable, actually, given the kind of enormous character of the stroke that he apparently had, and in the time period that has gone on. And so apparently Schumer on the hot mic was saying something to the effect of the debate didn't go or didn't have the ramifications that we thought it did, and then said something about Herschel Walker following up that race seems to be going downhill, meaning for the Democrats seems to be going downhill.
Right. Even though he keeps getting caught with different scandals going on. But yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying to find that video of him on the hot mic here live, and I'm not going to be able to find it in time. But yeah, it was an interesting moment for sure.
Absolutely. Well, there's quite a bit that we could talk about, but obviously we've run out of time again on a Sunday, and we will be back. What's our schedule this week, Gary?
Yeah, this week we have a so-called normal schedule. We're going to be recording Beyond a Reasonable Doubt, hopefully, on Tuesday afternoon with Adam Carolla. We will be back with the big show on Friday, and we'll probably be back with another Beyond a Reasonable Doubt a week from today.
Fantastic. And I'm going to give you a plug for Oklahoma Smokes was sponsoring BARD today.
Absolutely.
And I'll give you a plug. Go by GCT, Grand Central Terminal. See Jake at Dirty Taco. He may throw in something for you if you mention reasonable doubt or beyond a reasonable doubt. You may actually get a taco out of it.
Yeah, and I mean, if you say a swear word to him, he'll probably give you two because, that's the Gary special. So, just tell Jake what you think about him. And no, I'm just kidding. Jake's the best, and I wish him nothing but the best. And I can't wait to get out there and see him. Mark, I know you're enjoying that New York City weather. I am very jealous. Please let me live vicariously through you and go have a great time.
Thank you. See y'all.
All right. See you guys. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye, Gary.
Thanks for listening to Beyond a Reasonable Doubt. Stay tuned for more bonus episodes coming soon.